What's up, YouTube? My name's Luke, and thanks for checking back into my channel. Yesterday, I placed second at a League Cup in Cedar Grove, New Jersey, using Gardevoir GX. I went 7-1-1, my only loss being in top two. I'm going to go over the deck I played and then a brief tournament report going over the matchups, why I won, why I lost, that kind of thing. So let's get right into the deck list. We start off with 2 Diancie from Burning Shadows. It's primarily for its Sparkling Wish attack. Search your deck for a card that evolves from one of your Pokemon and put it onto that Pokemon to evolve it, then shuffle your deck. So this is really good if you're going second. You start with Diancie. You attach a Fairy Energy and Sparkling Wish, a Ralts, or a Remoraid, and get your evolutions going really quickly. If you go first and you don't start with Diancie, you could always attach an energy to whatever it is you started with. Next turn, get a Diancie to your bench, retreat to the Diancie, and start evolving from there. It's either this or Vulpix that you want to start with. They're both really good for accelerating your setup. Next, we have a 4-3-3-1 line of Gardevoir and Gallade. We play Ralts with Draining Kiss. It shouldn't matter too much, but Draining Kiss is an alright attack. Curlia with Smack and Magical Shot. It's important to play the Fairy one and not the Psychic one so you can heal it with Diancie. Forgot to go over that part of Diancie. So Diamond Storm deals 30 and heals 30 damage from each of your Fairy Pokemon. This is so crucial against Tapu Bulu Vikavolt, because they want to spread damage with Koko and then clean up with Tapu Bulu GX. So what happens is they deal 20 to everything with Tapu Koko Promo's Flying Flip, and then that will put your Gardevoirs at 210 HP, which means with a Choice Band, they could KO it with Tapu Bulu GX's Attack Nature Judgment, which deals 180 damage if you discard all energy. And then it will do 210 with the Choice Band, which will be enough to knock it out with Tapu Koko's Flying Flip damage from previous turns. So Diamond Storm deals 30 damage, and it also heals 30 from each of your Fairy Pokemon. So if your opponent Flying Flips, you can respond with a Diamond Storm and just keep going and going with that until you're set up enough to start knocking things out. The healing 30 damage is really significant against anything running Flying Flip, and using that to fix the math on killing your Gardevoirs. So yeah, let's get back to the Gardevoir line. Sorry about that. We've run one Gallade. It's a great one prize attacker, 150 HP. That's really bulky for a one prize attacker. The fighting type can come in every now and then if you play against a Drampa player. I don't really see too many Darkrai decks going around, but this would one-shot Darkrai if you came up against it. Premonition is most of the reason why we play this, probably, so it's really convenient because you're already running the evolution line for Gardevoir, so you can just easily throw in a Gallade. Premonition, look at the top 5 cards of your deck and put them back in any order. Goes really well with Octillery, so you sort the top 5 cards of your deck. Maybe you're drawing 2 with Abyssal Hand, you put the 2 you want on top, then draw them. So Premonition's really, really good. It could get you out of, let's say you have a dead hand, you can Premonition your the card that you're going to top deck next turn. So maybe there's a supporter somewhere in those 5, put that on top of your deck, and then you're back in the game next turn. Sensitive Blade does 60. If you played a supporter card this turn, it does 70 more for a total of 130. So that's knocking out Greninjas, that's knocking out Baby Volk, that's knocking out Tapu Koko Promo. It's knocking out basics and stage 1s of stage 2 evolutions. With a Choice Band, it's doing 160. I'm not sure if there's many things with 160 that it's relevant for. Maybe if your opponent's playing a Megaerna EX to counter Gardevoir, you could always knock it out with a Sensitive Blade and Choice Band. But I don't know how often that's going to happen. So yeah, Gallade's a very good one prize attacker. This is the heart of the deck, Gardevoir GX. It just has everything going for it. 230 HP, so it's super bulky. Its ability, Secret Spring, is amazing, even without the rest of the cards. Such a great ability. Once during your turn, you may attach a Fairy Energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon. So we have the Energy Acceleration that goes extremely well with its first attack, Infinite Force. For one Fairy Energy, it does 30 damage times the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon. So you can attach a Fairy Energy with Secret Spring, attach a DCE for your attachment for turn, then attach a Choice Band. You're doing 120 damage already with just your side of the field's, your active Pokemon's energy. And then you add in however many energy your opponent's active Pokemon has, and you're just dealing so much damage with Infinite Force. A lot of times, they'll already have a lot of energy on their Pokemon, so you can just attach a single Fairy Energy to not to not put too much into this one Gardevoir GX. So you can attach one energy and still do a lot of damage if your opponent's active has a lot of energy on it. Twilight GX is probably, now that we're in post-rotation, one of the best GX attacks, in my opinion. Shuffle 10 cards from your discard pile into your deck. So we just lost Versus Seeker. Twilight GX shuffles any 10 cards from your discard pile into your deck. So you can get back those key supporters that you're running two of, like some... Well, I prefer running 3 Guzma. I think a lot of decks are running 3 Guzma. But even at that, you run out of them sometimes. So shuffle back Guzma, shuffle back Acerola, shuffle back your Field Blowers, your Energy. Maybe you need Rare Candy. Maybe you lost your Octillery early. Just get back any resources you need. This is good for a turn where you're in a spot where you can't knock out your opponent's Pokemon, but next turn you'll be able to one-shot it, so you can just Twilight GX in that lull where you can't really do anything significant. And Twilight GX is so useful. It helped me out so many times during the tournament yesterday, and the tournament 2 weeks ago where I placed first. It's just a great GX attack. Then we have 3 Tapu Lele GX for consistency. I really like attacking with Tapu Lele GX in the mirror match because you can hit the opposing Gardevoir for like 60, 80, 100 damage with Energy Drive. If they knock out the Tapu Lele, it hurts, but it's not a big deal because then you can just bring up a Gardevoir GX of your own with minimal attachments and kill the Gardevoir GX, and you're ahead just because you have a Gardevoir GX with not a lot of energy on it and possibly no damage on it, and your opponent just lost one of their own Guardies. So Energy Drive is really good in the matchup. It's just a good attack all around for most matchups. We play this primarily for its Wonder Tag ability that gets a supporter card from your deck when you play it from your hand to your bench. This is in probably every deck right now because it's just so good. And it just so happens with the Energy Excel from Gardevoir, its Energy Drive attack is especially good in this deck. Next, we have 1 Alolan Vulpix for its Beacon attack, which is a free attack, so it's really nice if you're going second, which means you can attack on your first turn. You start with, let's say, a Ralts, you Lele for a Bridget, you use Bridget, you get 3 Pokemon. One of those Pokemon are sometimes a Vulpix. You'll just attach and retreat your active, put a Vulpix to the active spot, and then end your turn by using Beacon, by using Beacon and searching for any 2 Pokemon, getting your setup accelerated. So it's a great one prize Pokemon to just leave out there and Beacon for as long as you can, and it only has 1 retreat cost. Next, we have a 1/1 line of Remoraid and Octillery. This essentially, if you have Octillery set up, this essentially makes you end-proof at the end game. So let's say you only have 2 prizes left, your opponent ends you to 2. You can then draw until you have 5 cards in your hand. This is great for all points of the game, though, not just end game. And as I mentioned earlier, Abyssal Hand and Premonition work really well together because you can choose which cards you're getting off of Abyssal Hand if you're not drawing the full 5. So that's it for our Pokemon. Next, let's go to the trainers. we have two Field Blower. This is really important to have against decks running Fighting Fury Belt, so you can better one shot them, get off the Fighting Fury Belt, and then take the KO. Um, I would say it's mostly here for removing a Garbodor Garbotoxin's um, tool off of them so you can continue to use your abilities, because your Secret Spring ability is really important, as is your Premonition and your Abyssal Hand abilities for drawing, and your Wonder Tag from Lele. So Field Blower's a great card to have, especially when you are running an ability reliant deck. I almost put three in here. I almost added a third Field Blower the morning of the tournament, but I'll explain why I didn't later. Um, Three Rare Candy. I was running four maybe a few weeks ago, pre-rotation. I decided to add another Diancie and a third Curlia, and with that thicker Curlia line, I decided that four Rare Candy wasn't needed anymore, and I haven't really missed the fourth Rare Candy at all. We're running one Rescue Stretcher and one Super Rod. They're both really good. Super Rod, I almost always just get basic energy back with, but sometimes I'll get a Pokemon here or there. Rescue Stretcher is really good because it's versatile. If you need to get a Gardevoir back to your hand in a pinch to Rare Candy it down, or if you need to shuffle an entire line back, maybe your Remoraid and Octillery are gone, whatever it is, you can either get one back from your discard to your hand or shuffle three from your discard to your deck. For Ultra Ball, I don't think I really need to go into that. That's pretty standard. Great card. Two Acerola. I am running Acerola in place of Float Stones or Max Potions, which I've seen other decks running. Now, it doesn't do the same thing as Float Stone at all. It's just I felt Float Stone was not needed, so I replaced the Float Stones with Acerola, which are so good. It basically heals one of your Pokemon. Put one of your Pokemon that has any damage counters on it and all cards attached to it into your hand. So you can pick up a damaged Gardevoir GX, which I did multiple times this weekend, attach all of its energy to a different Gardevoir GX, and then start re-evolving the Gardevoir GX you just picked up. It's really great. It can deny your opponent a prize card when they think they're about to take one next turn. It can get you energy and choice bands back from a Pokemon that was about to die. Yeah, really great card. So we run two of these. I opted not to run any Max Potion because I favor Acerola because you get to keep your energy. Two Bridget. I was playing in a best of one League Cup for Swiss rounds. It's not best 2 out of 3 until it got to top 8. So I think having two Bridgets was really important in the consistency of the deck. If you're playing one Bridget and it's prized, it really hurts because almost every game you're going to want to start with a Wonder Tag for Bridget or have Bridget in your hand to get your setup going. So moving on to Connecticut at the end of this month, where it's a best 2 out of 3 Swiss round regionals, I may consider just one Bridget, because if it's prized one game, the chances are we won't get unlucky and it will be prized multiple games of the set. But we'll see. I really like the consistency of two, so I might keep it. I'm playing one Fisherman. So I've seen a lot of Guardy lists not playing it. I've seen a lot of Guardy lists playing it. I personally really like it. I remember one instance where I believe it won me the match in Game 3 versus Bob Zhang of top 8 yesterday. I was playing against Vika Bulu, and he killed my Gardevoir GX with 4 Fairy Energy on it. I promoted another Gardevoir GX, and I Fisherman for energy back, attached return, Secret Spring, and then that was the KO. So Fisherman can get you usually don't need all 4 energy right then and there, but it gets you energy from your discard straight to your hand. And I think that's just really good. It's also searchable by Lele, which is why I play it over an energy retrieval. And also, energy retrieval is an extra item that you don't want to have in your deck, in your discard sometimes against Garbodor. But yeah, I really like Fisherman. I don't think I'll be taking it out anytime soon. It's proved useful again and again in testing and in tournaments. Next, we have 3 Guzma, the new Lysander, essentially. Switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active. If you do, switch your active with one of your bench Pokemon. So it's the gust effect where you bring up one of your opponent's Pokemon that you probably want to kill or you want it to get stuck up there and stall, but you also get to switch your active Pokemon with one of your benched. Sometimes you wish you didn't have to switch your active with your bench, but most of the time you've either set up for it or it helps you as well. Excuse me. So yeah, 3 Guzma, that's definitely essential to my success with the deck. If I was only running 2 Guzma, I could tell you I probably wouldn't have even made it past top 8 because I used all 3 Guzma like every round, every game of my top 8 set. 4 N and 4 Sycamore for consistency. I don't think I'd go below 4 of either of these without Versus Seeker in the format. I think just running 4 and 4 is a really good choice. I'm running 1 Skyla. So earlier I said I would say why I did not add that 3rd Field Blower. The night before, my friend, we were looking at our deck lists that we've been working on Gardevoir pretty much since Burning Shadows came out, and our deck lists have only been a couple cards off in the weeks or possibly a month of testing the deck, and the only difference in our decks were he had 1 Skyla where I had a second Remoraid. I was playing 2-1 Octillery. So we were talking about how important Field Blower is against Golisopod Garb. Because most matches in testing comes down to if I hit Field Blower when I need it. So I was like, I might just play a 3rd Field Blower because Golisopod Garb's really consistent, and I know people in our area enjoy the deck. And I instead went with Skyla, which was like a pseudo Field Blower, because in the situations where I would draw into the 3rd Field Blower, I instead draw into Skyla. So most of the time I can just play the Skyla for the Field Blower, but in other matchups where I don't need the Field Blower, Skyla can get me anything else. And Skyla helped so much yesterday throughout the entire tournament, both Swiss rounds and Top Cut. I remember one time I Leylayed for Skyla to get an Ultra Ball, to get a Gardevoir, to Rare Candy it, because if I didn't have that, I would have probably had an N and my opponent had a small hand, or I would have had a Sycamore and get rid of my resources. So Skyla is just a really, really good card. If I decided to take something out of the deck, another supporter, I'd probably replace it with a second Skyla, because I think Skyla is extremely versatile and it's a great card to have. We're playing 2 Choice Band. I wish we could play 3, but I just don't have the room for it, and most of the time you're dealing enough damage with Gardevoir without Choice Band, but Choice Band is a nice additional damage of... It does 30 damage more to your opponent's active Pokemon GX or active Pokemon EX. Like I said, most of the time we can get away without the Choice Band, but it's really, really nice to have so you don't have to attach an extra energy to your Gardevoir, or once you're out of Secret Springs to use, you can always attach that Choice Band for an extra 30 damage. So that is the trainers, and next we just have 4 double colorless and 7 fairy energy. Another card on the waiting list to kind of get into the deck is an 8th fairy energy, because I do with fairy energy sometimes, but I don't think there's anything I would take out for the 8th fairy energy. And this is my deck. So right now I'm sitting at 90 CP out of the 400 you need for your Worlds invite. I've went to 2 League Cups so far. I got first at one and second at the other one that I played in yesterday. I played Guardy at both tournaments. The first tournament was Worlds format though, so my Guardy list was a little different, and that's the one where I got first place at. And this most recent one yesterday, I played the list that you're seeing on the screen that we just went over. I finished with a 7-1-1 record. My Swiss record was 501, and at the end of the day, I was 7-1-1. So without further ado, we'll go through my tournament. We'll do a quick report on that, and I'll go over the matchups as best as I can, but I don't want to make it too long, so I will keep it brief, but I do have a lot to say about some of the matchups. So, round one, I played against Volcanion. I talked with the player afterwards, and he was playing what seemed like more of a classic Volcanion deck, but he was playing Kiawe. Um, I believe he was playing one Ho-Oh and two Turtonator, but I could be wrong. Um, but anyway, I went first. I bridgeted, got my setup going. He, on his first turn, I believe he attached a tool to his active Volcanion EX and then used Kiawe, passing his turn over to me, and he attached 4 fire energy to his Volcanion, so it seemed like he had a pretty dead hand. Next turn, I think I just evolved a Ralts into a Kirlia and probably beaconed for a Gardevoir and possibly another Ralts or another Kirlia. He knocked out my active Pokemon. I couldn't get enough energy to knock out his Volcanion. I think I was whiffing fairies, so I just sent up a Diancie or a Ralts to take a knock to just sit there while I set up my bench. He did end up taking 3 prize cards, I believe. So at one point the game was 3 prizes on his side to 6 on my side, and then I took consecutive knockouts on EX Pokemon, taking my 6 prizes in the next 3 turns. So Volcanion, I feel, it's a weird matchup. So in my testing, which I've played countless games of Volcanion versus Guardy on both sides of the matchup, and I feel like a lot of times, granted that both players get a good setup, Volcanion looks like it's in the lead in the beginning because it attaches with Kiawe or Max Elixirs or Power Heater, and it gets those speedy knockouts in the early game, but then it can't really clean up once you have a big Guardy out there just one-shotting them every turn, and that's what happened with me in round 1. So round 1, I beat Volcanion, going 1-0. My friend sat next to me playing the exact 60 cards as me, but he played against Metagross and did not have as fortunate of a start to the tournament. So I was definitely nervous seeing a bunch of Greninja and a bunch of Metagross at the tournament. So going into round 2 at 1-0, I played a mirror matchup. My opponent was playing Gardevoir GX as well. I did see throughout the game he was playing 2 weakness policy. At least 2 weakness policy, I assume, for the Metagross matchup. He was also playing Fairy Garden. Overall, I just got more Gardevoir set up. I was able to Guzma up his Kirlias with energy and kill them with Infinite Force. I believe I Guzma'd 2 Kirlias in a row up and killed them, so I really prevented him from setting up his Gardevoirs. He eventually did take a knockout, but it was too little too late because I had already been down to 2 prizes and I just returned the KO and took the game there. The mirror match, I feel like a lot of times just goes who gets the Gardevoirs up and who gets their Kirlias killed. I have played a lot of close mirror matches, but this one I felt like I was in control the entire time because I got multiple Guardies set up. I was able to attack into their Guardy with a Lele, so I didn't put my own Gardevoir at risk. And I just played the match confidently and took kills whenever I could. So going into round 3, I'm 2-0. We played on stream round 3. It was myself playing Gardevoir versus Justin Bocari playing Greninja. I was pretty sure I was going to lose because Greninja is not that great of a matchup. But you can watch this. I'll put a link in the description on where the stream was, and you can actually watch this match. I just reviewed this match about an hour ago on the stream's Twitch channel for this tournament report, but I won't go over the entire matchup. Like I said, you can watch it for yourself if you like. But I went first, and I believe Justin mulliganed a few times three or four times if I'm not mistaken. I also played him in top two, so I could be confusing the mulligans with that. Um, but he started with a Tapu Lele GX. I had a really good start. I believe I bridgeted for my normal setup of like a Vulpix, two Ralts, and a Remoraid combined with my active. So I started with a Ralts and I got another Ralts, a Vulpix, and a Remoraid, I believe. Um, he had a pretty slow start. I think he just attached an energy to Tapu Lele, Sycamore, and benched the Froakie. From there, I started getting my bench set up. Eventually, he water duplicates, got down some Frogadiers on the bench, but unfortunately for him, every time he evolved a Frogadier into a Greninja, it was either active and I could kill it, or I Guzma'd it from the bench and killed it. So I don't think he ever saw Greninja break until it was the final turns of the game and it was too late. He also unfortunately made a misplay, um, hitting my Gallade with a 60 Moonlight Slash and then an 80 Moonlight Slash, thinking it would knock it out. I believe he thought it had 140 HP, but Gallade has 150 HP, so he left me with 10 HP, allowing me to get even more value off of my Gallade, because Gallade can one-shot Greninja. And I just kind of took a prize every turn. I Guzma'd every Greninja he played so it couldn't evolve into Break the following turn, and that's how I luckily controlled the matchup off of some unfortunate draws for Justin, and he was only able to get Greninjas down one at a time. So luck really has to be in my favor to win that matchup. After the tournament, I'm thinking if I play Gardevoir at Connecticut, I may want to put in a Giratina promo, which stops breaks from having abilities, because that matchup would be, it would just be really nice to be able to play down a Giratina against Greninja. And I do expect some people to play Greninja for Connecticut because it has a lot of good matchups. So I'm at a fortunate 3-0 going into round 4 after my match against Greninja. I play against Lex D'Andrea, playing also Gardevoir GX in round 4. We were talking before the pairings went up, and we pretty much knew each other's list by then. We were talking about inclusions we've made, inclusions we were thinking about. I know he wasn't playing Acerola, and I am, which is an advantage in the mirror match. And I think he was playing 2-2 Octillery, which was a little different than mine. So anyway, I got an amazing start off of going first against Lex. He mulliganed once, so I drew my mulligan and then drew for turn, and after benching my mulligan draw, I had a Vulpix active and 3 Ralts on the bench without using a supporter, without using an Ultra Ball, so that was just a super, super fortunate start for me. I believe I attached and passed. I had an N in my hand, but I didn't want to play it in case he did not have a great hand. But luckily for him, he did have a good hand. I believe he played a Bridget. So on my next turn, I attached, and then I end, and then I think I beaconed. I either beaconed or Sparkling Wished. I can't remember. But pretty much like in my first mirror match of the day, I got down more Gardevoirs than my opponent did. I was able to attack with Lele's, and my opponent was not. And I was able to hit his Curlias and his Gardevoirs at opportune times with minimal energy on my own Gardevoir. So I was able to keep control of the match for the most part and come out on top. So I was feeling great after round 4, going 4-0 into round 5. We had a 6-round tournament, so I could just ID my next 2 rounds and go into top cut at 402. But we had an uneven amount of undefeateds, so I played down against a 3-1. My friend Joe playing Gardevoir, Coco, Espeon. He wasn't playing Necrozma, fortunately for me. It makes the matchup easier. So yeah, round 5, I again played on the stream, so I you can watch that at the link I'm going to put in the description. Um, so yeah, he's playing Gardevoir, Coco, Espeon. I know that I have to knock out the Cocos before they can do a lot of spread. I believe I Diamond Stormed in response to a few of his flying flips, healing my Pokemon, which was really nice. And I didn't play too many items into the discard, so his Trashalances weren't doing a lot of damage, and I just pretty much took control of the game, attached the amount of energy I needed to Gardevoir, and I took one prize at a time, as far as I can remember. Not a lot of two prize knockouts, because I was mostly killing Cocos and Garbodors. And I came out on top of the matchup. I think if he was playing Necrozma, it would have been a different story. I would have had to conserve playing Gardevoir GXs down. But since I knew he wasn't playing Necrozma, I could just play down all of my Gardevoirs and heal the damage that Coco did to me, and I was safe from Espeon. So going into round 6 at 5-0, almost positive that I'm going to ID my next round unless I somehow got paired down again. I got paired against my friend Frank Durso playing Greninja, and we just ID'd before even sitting down, shook hands twice because the first time we shook with our left hands, and that was inefficient for Frank, so we shook with our right hands, signed the match slip, and just chilled, and I talked to some of the other people that ID'd about, excuse me, some of the other people that ID'd about what the top 8 was looking like. Unfortunately for myself and Lex, the other Gardevoir who ID'd into top 8, 3 Greninjas made it into top 8, one being Justin Bocari, who I beat round 3, and his brother Zachary Bocari. So we had 3 Greninjas. Also, the other Greninja was Frank Durso, who I ID'd against round 6. So top 8 was 3 Greninja, 2 Guardy, 1 Golisopod Garb, Jason Anacarco playing Volcanion, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the last one I cannot remember at the moment, but I did not play against them. Guardy, Volk, Guardy, Golisopod, Greninja, 3, 5, 6, 7. Alright, I'll remember it later, I guess. So, yeah, top 8, I'm sorry, Vikabulu, that's right. Bob Zhang playing Vikabulu. That was my opponent, round 1, top 8. Round 1 of cut, top 8. So, in top 8, I am playing against Bob Zhang, Vikabulu. This is also on stream, so you can go back and watch that. I was fortunate enough to have 5 matches on stream, so I could look over a lot of these and This helps with the tournament report I'm doing. So, top 8, Vikabulu versus Gardevoir. I've played this at home a lot. I know this is super tricky. I think it's a 50-50 matchup. It depends on if my opponent can get the flying flips when he needs them, if I can get the diamond storms to heal the flying flips when I need them, if he has choice band on his Bulu GX. So I go in knowing that this is going to be a really tough matchup because of the decks and because Bob is also a very good player. So game 1, we both got pretty good setups, but I made a risky play to Guzma a Coco with 2 energy and a Fighting Fury Belt, bringing that to his active spot and promoting a Guardy GX with a double colorless to my active spot. With 2 cards left in my hand, I Abyssal Hand to try to get the Fairy Energy, but I whiffed it. And from there, I was just always behind 1 move that game, and Bob ended up taking the win game 1. Game 2, I believe I was able to Diamond Storm at opportune times. Guzma up his Vikavolt to stall a little. And at the end of the game, I was ending him down to low hands and just leaving him with not many options. And I was able to come out on top there. Game 3 ended up going to time, and I was just taking prizes aggressively. And on turn 3 of time, I knocked out a Bulu with a very powered up Guardy GX for the 2 prizes I needed to be ahead in prizes at the end of turn 3, so I ended up winning the set in game 3 against Bob. Um, yeah, Vikabulu is a very tough matchup. I don't know how that match would have went if time wasn't called, because we were both taking prizes back and forth, and it would have been whoever ran out of steam first. Um, so I'm extremely happy to move on the top 4. Like I said, this is my second League Cup of quarter 1, and my first League Cup was a first place. So if I could somehow get first place here, even with all the Greninjas, I would max out my quarter 1 League Cups. So going in the top 4, another really, really tricky matchup. I'm playing against Zach Abel with Golisopod Garb. I believe this was one of his first tournaments, if not his first tournaments, returning to competitive Pokemon. He used to play a few years ago. I'm not sure exactly when he stopped playing and when he returned, but I know he's fairly newly back to the game. But I know he's a good player. He made top 8 at a competitive tournament. And Golisopod Garb is a very good deck. I watched him play a couple games, and it looks like he was playing it at an advanced level. So again, I knew this was going to be a tough match. This was also on stream, as they streamed both of the top 4 matches, which were Lex versus Justin and myself versus Zach. I know that he won game 1. I'm pretty sure he took prizes fairly quickly, and he might have actually 6-0'd me on prizes. I might not have drew any. If I did, I drew it very late in the game because he Garbotoxin locked me, and I wasn't able to do much of anything. Game 2, he Garbotoxin locked me once again, but I got Field Blowers when I needed them a couple times. I Twilight GX'd a Field Blower back into my deck. When he was down to, I want to say 3 or 2 prize cards, I end him, and got him to a point where he didn't have much in his hand that he could use, so I could slowly take knockouts, because my deck can't aggressively hit for 120 energy with only 1 energy on it like Golisopod can. So I had to switch between Gardevoirs so he wasn't taking prizes. I believe I end him again after he got a supporter. I got Field Blowers when I needed them, and I was able to take game 2. Game 3 came down to time. I was on turn 3, and on his turn 2, he took either 1 or 2 prize cards, putting it to the point where he had 1 prize card left, and I had 2 prize cards left. So either I take 1 prize card, I take 1 prize card to keep the game going until someone takes the last prize. I take 2 prize cards and win, both because of time and taking all my prize cards, or I do not take a prize card past my turn and he wins off of time. I believe what I did was he ended me to 2 cards. I don't think I had an Octillery left. So between my 2 cards that I drew off the N and the card that I drew for turn, 2 of them were a DCE and a Guzma, and I was able to Guzma up a Lele on his bench, attach DCE to the Pokemon. I brought up for my Guzma, retreat it, and kill the Lele with my Gardevoir. So I won. I got really lucky in game 3, and it was also a super, super close match, both game 2 and game 3. So I came out on top once again, and I beat Zach playing Golisopod Garb. Moving on to top 2. I do want to say Zach had what I think was complete control of game 1 of the set. Game 2 was back and forth, and game 3 was also back and forth. It just came down to if I got what I needed off of the N, and I did. So congratulations to both Bob, who I beat in top 8, and Zach, who I beat in top 4. They were really, really amazing games, and I haven't watched all of it on Twitch, but I know I'm going to enjoy watching them because they were just really skillfully played games. So top 2, I am playing against Justin Bocari with Greninja, giving him the chance to get revenge on me from earlier when I beat him in Swiss. Game one, he gets kind of Greninja hands and just can't do much, and he just keeps sending up Pokemon for me to kill while I take prize cards consecutively every turn until he can't do much of anything and I just kill his last Pokemon. Um, Game two went differently for him. I believe, like I said, these are all on Twitch, so you can watch them for yourself. But game two, he got what he needed, and I ended up scooping when he had 2 or 3 prize cards left because he had 2 Greninja breaks in play and was just consecutively using 2 giant water shurikens a turn because he also had his Starmie set up, and that's how Greninja beats decks. It can just deal 60 and 60 and then attack with either Shadow Stitching to lock your powers, or it can do Moonlight Slash for 60 or 80 damage, or even 110 with a Choice Band. So, yeah, Justin's deck ran like it should for him in game two, and he won the matchup, which he's favored in. Game three was probably the closest game I've played against Greninja using Gardevoir. He didn't dead draw, and he also didn't take complete control of the game. He used Shadow Stitching to lock my abilities at the correct times and put me in a really tough place. He had to use a Moonlight Slash late in the game of game three, not allowing me to... he had to use a Moonlight Slash, so he didn't Shadow Stitch, which allowed me to use my powers, which was very helpful for me. I had a dead hand for a few turns. I had like 3 Guzma and a Fisherman in my hand, so I couldn't really do much with my Abyssal hand anyway, but this was my first turn with powers for a while. He was down to 2 prize cards, and I was down to 2 prize cards, but he had no EXs or GXs on the field, so I had to take 2 1-prize... I had to kill 2 1-prize attackers. So he knocks out my Gardevoir, going down to 2 prize cards. I send up a Curlia. It has energy on it. I believe I draw for turn, attach an energy. I get something out of my hand, allowing me to only have 4 cards in my hand. I think I Ultra Balled some things away. So I Abyssal Hand for 1. Getting just extremely lucky and drawing into a Gardevoir GX. I evolve it. I'm able to then kill one of his Greninja breaks. He had a Greninja on the bench, though, so all he would have to do is get another Greninja breakdown, use Starmie's ability to get energy back, and then he would be able to use 2 giant water shurikens and attack for the game. He was able to do all of that, and he got both giant water shurikens off and attacked with Moonlight Slash on my Gardevoir, taking his last 2 prizes for the game. So congratulations to Justin for winning the League Cup and getting 50 championship points. Like I said, all of my top 8 matches were just absolutely nail-biting. Like, they were all so close, and 2 of them came down to time. Overall, I think I think Gardevoir is the deck to beat, if that isn't already obvious to a lot of people. It's just showing up in numbers and performing really well. I think Greninja has amazing matchups across the board, and it's just a really, really powerful deck once it gets going. So I think people may be teching in the Giratina promo, as I mentioned earlier. I know I'm considering it for Hartford, Connecticut. The regionals, Hartford, Connecticut regionals. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with my performance with Gardevoir. I'm sitting at 90 out of 100 total CP for quarter 1 League Cups. I'm probably going to go to a couple close League Cups, but I'm not going to travel too far for that last 10 possible CP. Yeah, from here on out, I'm just testing for Hartford, Connecticut regionals, trying to find a deck that's not Gardevoir to convince me that it's better. But I think Gardevoir is just a powerhouse of a deck. It's consistent. It can beat just about anything. So yeah, thank you for watching my tournament report and deck analysis on Gardevoir GX. If you have any requests of a deck for me to cover, any matchups to go over, Anything about the standard format leading up to Connecticut Regionals, please comment below. You can follow me on Twitter and Twitch, which is my usernames are here in the video. And have a good day. Thanks for watching.